First of all, thank you for coming. I didn't realize how many cool people I know. How many people are really out here doing some amazing stuff? You are one of those people. So the reason why I wanted you to come on is because when we were together at university, I think my son was 3 or 4 months old, but that was a long time ago, right? He's 18 now. That was a long, long time ago. Right. One thing I noticed is that you were really just a very hard worker, but you got hated on a lot. And it really does kind of remind me of my son, because he was telling me the other day, he was like, people love to hate on me. Mm-hmm. And he's one of the nicest people that you could meet. But he get hated on, and he really don't get why. And I'm like, well, son, you dress nice, you're smart, you make good grades. Unfortunately, people hate on folks that are really trying to do well versus if you're out just thugging it in the streets. Right. So in that aspect, he really reminds me of you, because at that point in your life, you were getting hated on, but people really didn't see the hard work you was putting in behind the scenes. Right, working your butt off to try to get the things that you were getting. So it's not like you just wanted to have all of these nice things and you just wanted them handed to you. You were working for those. Hard for those. And then even one time I actually remember seeing you in the hallway, and you had transitional shades at that time, right? It's funny, I remember that. You had transitional shades, and you was just coming in from outside, so your shades was darker, because that's what transitional shades do. And I remember us having a conversation about people making an issue out of you wearing shades on the inside. Clearly, we understand there's transitional shades here. But it's like the hate is so blatant. Right. So for people to kind of create reasons to hate on you, don't like what you drive because you drive a nice vehicle. And you've always driven a nice vehicle, but you work to drive those nice vehicles. It didn't come for free. Right. I kind of want to get into all of that, just the mindset of working hard, not really looking for handouts because you didn't get any. There was nobody that really tried to help you. I'm sure there was people that did kind of take you on your wings, but there was just a lot of people that hated you for no reason. So I want to kind of talk about just your work ethic, how you got there, what was the mentality during those times, and how you really dealt with the hate, if you will, and just the mindset that you kind of had to be in with that, because everybody wants to be, well, I won't say everybody wants to be liked, but it's nice when people like you because you know you're a nice person. You know, you're doing good things. It would be nice if people would like you. So how do you kind of deal with the fact that people don't like you? And then we want to talk about your organization, Quarles Make a Change Foundation, that you're kind of doing now. So I'm going to open the floor up to you and just kind of address any of those things.
All right. Great introduction. It's a lot, but I definitely got a good answer for it, per se. When it comes to jealousy, you know, during those years I knew you, you know, it was new. You know, it was a new concept for me, but I used it as a way to keep doing what I was doing, because it was drawing people that was just didn't like the fact that you were doing things at that age that they hadn't done at their age.
You were how old?
Oh, I was young. I was only 24. So taking that step back, you know, that wasn't my first time really just hitting the ground running like that. I've always was aspired to be something when I saw the local guys in my community driving the nice cars, you know, and I was like, man, I want to be that dude. They weren't doing the right things per se, but they were inspiration for me to say, man, I want to be that guy that when he drove through his neighborhood, people were like, hey, they knew he was there for love, you know, and you inspired them and you made them proud based off what you had accomplished. So that was like my beginning when I really ignited that thought. From there, I was always all about making that next strong move. It was never, okay, get to a point and get comfortable. So that first phase of me experiencing jealousy was more so like, okay, getting to know it. What does it feel like? What does it look like? So at times I was around people that probably were jealous of me, you know, and I was experiencing what that looked like. So I was very attentive to see what those energies were like in private and what those energies were like in public. So I got to know it a little bit better. So by the time I reached my second phase, probably into my 30s, I was having fun with it. I knew it. I knew exactly what it was. But by the time I was in my 30s, I was driving a drop top 500 Benz with 20s on it. Because when everybody was doing what they were doing, hating and video gaming and sleeping, I was working and working. I think that the years when I was in Montgomery, I detailed cars, I planted flowers, I baked biscuits. I was a telemarketer. I worked at Walmart.
I remember you detailing cars, and I remember you working at Walmart. I don't remember the biscuits.
Yeah. And I was just taking giant steps ahead of the people that were around me because I just had discipline. When I set my mind onto something, I moved. It wasn't no hesitation. There wasn't no thinking. It was like, I knew that if I put myself in a situation, it was nothing that could stop me from not being the best at what it is that I did. The one thing that I've always believed in more than anything is myself. I could walk out of this room and go anywhere and do anything in my mind, During those years where I knew you, when I was in the service is very blocked. I know where you should be based off where you're at. Exactly. So I'm going to always tell you that I didn't fit into that box, and I never fit into that box. And everybody was
had a problem with the fact that you didn't fit into that box. They had a problem with that.
Yeah. And that was the problem. So I was always inspired to be more. I didn't look up to somebody that I stood next to. I know that me looking up to anybody is not going to do me any good. I can admire certain characteristics and certain traits, but I look up to myself. So every morning I wake up, I'm trying to be like, who am I going to be tomorrow? Because it's exciting. I don't know what I'm going to be tomorrow,
I tell my son all the time, be your own competition. Set your goals, succeed your goals, set your new goals. Your competition is not the people that are around you.
Not at all.
You set your own goals and you exceed your own goals. So I really like that. Now, I do look like I remember you talking about a gentleman that was kind of like a mentor for you. I don't remember. It was an older guy, and I don't remember.
I've had the fortune of having, outside of my immediate mentors and my family, I've had the fortune to have 3 or 4 solid gentlemen that I've come in contact with. And that some I speak to more often and some I speak a little less, but speak to them still to this day. All of those core guys that I've met in my development, I still reach out to them. So the gentleman you're probably referring to was probably Chris Jones. And I still talk to him to this day. We were joking the other day and he was saying when I met him, he was my age and he's in his 60s now. So the story about him was on my first duty station. I had a green Nissan Altima and I was at the car bay washing it on base. And then I seen this silver Mercedes pull up with the steering wheel on the other side of the road. And I'm like, oh, who is that? Me being the person I am, again, going back to jealousy, I've never hated. I just was inspired. I was like, hey, man, who are you? What do you do? And how can I get to know you? And he said, I'm not in the military. He said, my wife is in the military. I'm a dependent. I come down on the weekends. And I said, is it possible for me to just come over and just hang out with you? And he said, you ever see my car? They just come knock on the door. So here you are, a 19-year-old man just starting out in life. I'm just digging into this 42-year-old man's brain who just so happened to be a financial consultant. So I wasn't going out. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke. I didn't have any of that going on in my life. I'm just sitting there picking his brain. There was a lot of stuff that probably came in and left out, but it still got sucked back in at some point in time,
What are some of those key things that you feel like you learned from him and any of the other mentors that you kind of like held on to and really kind of catapulted you into the direction you ended up going into?
Absolutely. Great question, because I can pinpoint like exact characteristics from each one of them that I use that I try to incorporate to who I am. Chris, I saw another side of success, being a positive individual. He had a solid family. I was amazed at how he raised his children. They were very mannerable. I enjoyed his dynamic and what he was able to bring to his family, new experiences and different things like that. My other mentor, Daryl, he would always just keep it straightforward with you. It was no sugarcoat. He going to tell you exactly what it was. You might not like it, but he's going to be honest with you. So, I learned from him, don't come to me unless you want truth, because I'm going to always be honest with you and it may not feel good. Brian Matthews, he stood up for his people. He always was making sure that he looked out for his people. So I took on that characteristic. That was something that I already possessed, but that really exposed me to it. in a business sense.
So let's talk about how he took care of his people.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you also became a supervisor in the military. Did you have anyone that you were kind of mentoring? Did you have people that were under you or your subordinate per se, but that still ended up hating on you, that you had those same issues with? Kind of tell me, a little bit about you as a supervisor.
Well, you get that. It doesn't matter the relationship. Yeah, you deal with that. But at that point, I was having fun. When you realize the separation that you create, having a hustle mentality, that grind mentality, that goal mindset, you start seeing separation. And the thing about it, Colette, I look back, I could have been a millionaire a long time ago because I had the work ethic to do it. But what I didn't have was somebody in my corner saying, Travis, look, move this money better. But what I was doing, I was buying a new car every 6 months. And I'm thankful for those experiences that I created because on the other side of it, I still ended up in a very great position, But I've probably owned more cars, I probably own 50 or 60 new cars,
And listen, that was also a problem for people that you kept having these new cars showing up. And,
Nice.
You're not making enough money in the military for these cars, sir. Go sit down. So how you driving up in here with those? But, it kind of goes back to you're saying that really was the beginning of your inspiration. So people can hate on why you're inspired. But if nice things is what inspired you, it really doesn't matter what inspired you. It matters that you were inspired and you were inspired to do it legally,
right,
working hard versus illegally, which you saw how they were getting those new cars, but that's not really the route you wanted to take. Right. So hats off to you, concerning that. So go ahead. I interrupted you. What else were you going to say?
My dad, he always want to have talks. I remember back in 10, 11, 12 years old, he always used to try to talk to me about stuff that'd be way down the line. But, when you listen, and some of that stuff sinks in at some point. So, he was always someone that always wanted to teach you preparation. Be prepared. He came from a background of having to build, so, prepare, be prepared, be prepared. And my stepfather, he's deceased at this point, but he had fun. He lived on the edge. He was raw. He was himself, but his family was always taken care of. Sometimes I would see him do things. I'm like, man, but that taught me sometimes you got to do what you have to do to get what you need. Yeah. And my grandfather, he was awesome. Somebody he was just a great person. He was an open, warm, loving person. So, those are my male mentors that I took to, spent a lot of time with, but then I have a lot of females. So there's a lot of things that kind of accumulate to make me, say who the person I am today.
I like the fact that you have brought in your dad, your stepdad, and your grandfather as those male figures that have really been a part of your life. So tell me about trust, especially when you get to the point where you feel like, I won't say that you have arrived, but you feel like, okay, my hard work has finally paid off. I have some of the things that I really like. I can kind of relax a little bit. I don't have to work so hard anymore for those things. How hard is it for you to trust people now? Like, are they interested in me because of what I have, what they feel like they can get from me? Or is it because they like me as a person? How do you process that?
That goes back to taking my 20s and really trying to understand what jealousy looks like. 30s practicing it, 40s exploiting it. At this point, nobody gets in my way because they know when you come into my presence, you gotta be on your game. You can't come around me and think, okay, I'm gonna reap the benefits of being around this man with a C performance. You can't. I can't let you be around me and be mediocre or be average. We're pushing for that next level. So I don't have problems now because they stay out of my way. In my 30s, I had to encounter those things with trust. And you're like, dang. Like, when you let a person, my 20s, it was like slaps. And then I was able to start blocking a little bit by my, late 20s, 30s. And then sometimes a person rub your shoulders a little bit, make you feel comfortable, and you put your guard down and pop. And so those were life experiences to get me to the point today where I'm smart enough to circumvent all of that. So now I don't have any issues. I had a short stint with the organization that was building a franchise. And I was all in. I created the basic infrastructure, how it was going to come together as the COO of that organization. And, as things kept going, it just didn't make a lot of sense. It seemed like they were taking more than they were giving. It seemed like it was coming off more so like these were falsehoods that I was selling to get them something. So as I began to get that indication, I began to back out and bailed from that situation before it could have become more detriment to myself and everything I worked for, whereas in the past, I was in there a little bit longer. So it just made
how
me
do you back out? Because, like when you start seeing stuff that doesn't seem right, doesn't feel right, a lot of times we don't back out immediately,
right.
But we kind of open our eyes, we see it. So what's your approach on like, okay, nah, this is not it, unfortunately. How do you get out of there?
The easiest way to keep a person out of your way is to have a standard. If you are around me, you will have to, you're going to be yourself. I get that. But we operate on a certain level. There's a certain caliber. There's certain things you will not see me doing. There's certain things that you will not be associated with me doing. So if you hold people accountable, nobody wants to be held accountable. All you see all day is projections. We project all of that stuff back. But if you start holding a person accountable, like, no, that's not how it went. Person comes to you telling you an exaggerated story, like, no, that's not how it went. They're going to stop telling that story around you. No, sorry, that's not how it happened. Then they'll take it to somebody else. So just understanding when people start to become too much, you just realign them. Just say, no. And then they'll stop liking you and they're going to do exactly what you need them to do, is move out the way.
I told you I was going to bring this up. I got to bring it up. So speaking of holding people to a higher standard and all this stuff, we was working on this website, right? We was working on this website.
Right.
I just wanted to eat. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to stop working on the website. I just needed to use the bathroom. I just needed to eat. But you're like, let's go. Let's go. I'm like, Travis, can I eat? Can I just eat some food?
And that's one thing I've had to learn is that, and so, we're all, only thing we can do is project out who we are. So what I had to learn was like, man, everybody don't move at the rate that you move at. You know what I'm saying? I move at a very intense rate. When I get into something, it's like I'm going to create probably about 6 months worth of work in like a week. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's just my mindset, and I've kind of stepped off of it. So I apologize. You had to be one of the last victims.
I'm like, can I just take some food, please? Boss.
Yeah. So understanding that, that was all my energy, trying to get people to move at my rate. And so, a lot of times, that's why I end up working by myself, because I move at a rate that just, it's me. And I know I'm the only thing that'll get in my way is me, and I ain't gonna get in my way. I'm moving, So, but thank you.
But you know what, though? It's great work ethic. And
right.
It really is a way to weed people out, though. You know what? I used to say, Travis, when I thought about you, I used to say, I don't know anybody that works harder. And I think you might still hold that title. I don't know anybody. And I think that I'm a hard worker, but I don't know anybody that works with your intensity, that really grinds.
Oh, yeah. No,
I don't know anybody that works as hard.
So I'll give you a Friday. So Key West and in Montgomery. In Key West, some of my days would be start at 8 in the morning, go to 4 p.m. So I would leave my military job to change clothes in the bathroom. They were cool with it. Change clothes, start working at 4, get off at midnight. Then at that time, I had a girlfriend that was like 4 or 5 states away. So sometimes I would leave work at 12 and go change, be on the road by 1 and being in the next state 12 hours later. So I was nonstop. And in Montgomery, I would leave AU, change clothes in the backseat of my car, go in there and work till 2 o'clock in the morning. Man, who details your car? I do. I'll be at your house at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'm getting back up at 5, getting dressed to go detail a car at 6 so he can go see his family by 11, done with him by 11, 12, back at home, just going back to sleep at noon. That was just me with no kids, no drinking, no smoking. So yeah, of course, I was going to have what I wanted. It's a blind work ethic that I had. I just wanted stuff, and I wanted everything that I didn't have, and I got everything.
Yeah, I do admire the fact that you didn't mind working for it. That's to be admired. I want to talk about your foundation. Just tell me a little bit about your foundation, how you started it, and what it's about, what you're trying to do, what's your vision?
I'm a convicted type of dude with my intuition. So everything that's profound like that comes to me in a voice or a dream. For a long time, I saw it probably 15, 20 years of my life before it happened. So when I have a dream that comes to me, I just wake up and I moved on it. So I had a dream about it. It came to me, and then I went that day and I just put all the wheels in motion from that. That's how you caught the rapture, because it was moving. Yeah. It was just moving like it was a big ball, and it just happened. So it's still coming together. But my vision for it is, it's just really just helping people, helping a homeless person, inspiring somebody, or giving somebody a contracted job. I got 3 campaigns coming up. I believe I'm going to run them simultaneously. Last year I had the Youth Empowerment Award. That was just inspiring youth to just invest in what it is you're doing. If you like playing soccer, tell us what you're doing and what your plans are, what your dreams are. And then you could win the contest based off being inspired to be a professional soccer player, an artist, what have you.
What's the reward if you win the contest?
The gentleman last year, Ben, he won $500, and he told me what he was going to do with the reward money in his package. I sent him the $500 as the original plan. He said he was going to use the $500 to buy a tablet. I went and bought the tablet for him and sent him the $500. That goes back to when I was saying I was that young guy. Something inspired me. And if I could be inspiration for him, or put him in a position where he continued to be inspired to chase down whatever dream he has, then that's what I'm doing. So that I'm going to bring that back as the second annual. And then I'm going to do the young adult empowerment. It's going to be for young adults just starting life, whether they're going to college or whether they're just, they want to get their apartment, what have you. So that'll be $500 for that one. And then I'm going to do a small business one. And I'm going to run them all simultaneously. So for me, I just want to be able to say, don't limit yourself. Just dream and just go. Just go, because the only thing that stops us is ourselves,
I remember you was doing haircuts for the homeless at one time as well. That's really amazing. One thing I will say, so as much as you may like to have the finer things in life, you give. You give back.
Yeah. Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I'm saying? So it's not like you just like, okay, I want to get these, I want to have nice things, and I just want to hoard it, and I'm the only one, and you can't have it. You take what you have worked for, and you give it away.
Absolutely.
And you give it to people that need it and will appreciate it, not just people that's just trying to use you for it. So That's pretty amazing.
I appreciate that. With the organization, that it's just building. I got an awesome team. It just happened 2 people that I've known, that I trusted, over the years. They were in alignment, and they stepped right in and they helped me push it. And I have the vision for where it's going in my mind, but I'm still letting it turn and go its full cycle. And that's one thing I've learned as I've gotten older, is my patience. This time I've kind of throttled it back a little bit and said, okay, in order for me to get it to that next level, I had to slow it down a little bit. I had to reel it in a little bit. And not saying not to enjoy life, not to have fun, but you got to know when to shift gears and speed up, slow down. You got to know when to change directions. You got to be willing to say, for me, is believing in yourself. If you believe in yourself and let all the noise of what everybody else got to say and what they feel, you just block it out, man, you'll reach a beautiful place. And I'm working on getting to that point where the noise is becoming lower and lower and lower. There was a lot of noise at one point in time. And you get to a point now, and I'm just finding that peace where I'm getting rid of a lot of noise. And so then you get to know who you are and what it is that you like and what it is you like to do. So you evolve into who you've always were, being in the service for whatever period of time. I had to live that a little bit. So now it's human expression. Now it's, okay, who is this person? And you got to peel back all those layers and try to get to know who is that person that wants to come out. It wants to come out. It's just people don't know how to get it out,
Yeah. I like the fact that you talk about the sideline, the noise. And I always tell my kids, you have to learn how to ignore the distractions on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Because there's going to always be people who's not doing what you're doing, not wanting to do what you're doing, not wanting to put forth that effort, but they're going to always be trying to stop you and hinder your process. If you can learn, like you said, to ignore that noise, to silence that noise, really, you're unstoppable at that point, because it's really the people on the sideline that's not doing anything that gets in our head to keep us from doing what we need to do. So I like that.
Hey, the biggest critic is the person that's doing the least.
Yeah.
When you out here getting it, you ain't got time to critique nobody, because you're really focused on your craft and what it is you're trying to do. And if anything, you see somebody, when I would see you doing what you're doing, I'm like, I see you, you're doing it, keep building, keep growing, because you know that while you're building and doing what you're doing, you need that same level of encouragement. You're not trying to beat nobody down. It's like, I see you, keep pushing, because I don't benefit from knocking you down. So, but I do benefit if I uplift you, hey, you got a relationship,
Right.
But a lot of people, they allow their egos to ruin their relationships because their deficiencies,
Yeah. Another thing too is the voice inside our heads, because we talk about others being critics, but sometimes we're our worst critics. Sometimes we're the ones that tell ourselves we can't do this or we're not good enough. How do you kind of deal with that voice in your head?
With that, you really have to go in. You have to look inward. That's the whole point, because once you get to know who you are and that person, the things that you didn't heal from when you were younger, the traumas, looking at things at the wrong way, because in your 30s and your 40s, you should not be looking at the same things the same way you did in your 20s. I got to make sense out of this now. And maybe I put too much on it. Maybe I need to take that Band-Aid off and let that heal so I can move on and be a better person.